Hi everyone. So earlier I watched a video of the Five Nights at Maggie's timeline, story, lore explained. The reboot of Five Nights at Maggie's, not the original. And I really want to talk about it. I mean, I've been wanting to make a Five Nights at Maggie's a video about Five Nights at Maggie's for almost a week by now. But ever since the elections happened, and I've just gotten sort of exhausted. But hey, I'm talking about this now. So, now, I first heard about the original Five Nights at Maggie's and Five Nights at Maggie's 2 before the third and fourth game came out. And let's just say, in my honest opinion, the Five Nights at Maggie's series is one of the most underrated Fnaf games I have ever heard of, which says a lot to me. I love Five Nights at Maggie's, and the original story takes place in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe with Five Nights at Candy's and Pop-Go's. So, yay! I'm not sure if the other creators, like King Carter or Emil Mago, even know about Five Nights at Maggie's. Probably not. Now, in the original timeline, the first part of the story takes place in 1980. Meanwhile, in the reboot, it first takes place in 1978. I can barely even speak. So, in the original timeline, two people, John Stevens and his best friend, Paul Campbell, are in the positions of working in spring lock-on Amtrak suits. However, Manuel Gennaro, lovely, his son, Daniel, says that they're idiots, insulting them for no reason. At least, that's what we might think, for some reason. Four years later, Manuel Gennaro dies, thus leaving his son, Daniel, in charge of the restaurant. A very greedy one decided to completely renovate, spending every last cent on renovations of the place and thus also changing the name of the pizzeria to Gubby's Magical World. Also bringing two new mascots for the pizzeria that were Guppy and Craggy. They would be the replacement of Surdy and Jerry, so to speak, since they would be the main attractions instead of them, thus worrying Paul and John about whether they would be fired from their jobs. In the end, they were not. It's unknown where this specific day takes place, but in 1988, at night, Paul and John were very tired and sitting on the stage of the place. They began to talk that day was like no other. Many children jumped on top of them, but they were lucky since the springs did not come out of their place. John, who he was wearing the sturdy suit, he proposed taking off his suit and dreaming about the pay that would be the next day. When John jumped from the stage to the floor, he had stayed still, scaring Paul, and when he asked him what had happened, John was crushed to death by the springs. Paul began to run towards him, but the two of them failed to comply with the safety regulations. So, Paul began to be crushed along with John by the springs. They had fallen to the ground, suffering and dying for their mistakes. Yeah, they are idiots. But this time, no one saw anything. The next day, it is not known who found the bodies, but it was possibly Daniel, and it is thought that together with other authorities, they took the animatronic suits of Serdy and Jerry with the bodies of Paul and John, went inside to parts and service, and removed as much as possible the bodies inside the suits. While the blood-filled spring bodies were left in parts and service, out of everyone's sight, Daniel decided to turn Serdy and Jerry into animatronic characters, so as not to have more incidents. But something spiritual had happened. The slates of Paul and John possessed Serdy and Jerry, giving them life each with their respective costumes, John to Serdy and Paul to Jerry. One day, after the first incident at the premises, Daniel in a small argument with whoever configured the animatronics. The mechanic told Daniel what he would do if Paul and John's families sued the company, since that would be what he would do. Daniel seriously told him that he would buy the lawsuit in his favor with the company's money, getting rid of charges, which the only thing that would really close their store would be that certain incidents such as a disappearance of children and more would happen, things that would never happen. But guess what? They were next to the stage of the possessed and living Serdy and Jerry. They had already heard everything, so that they would do the exact revenge. Since in addition to hearing that, they also heard about Daniel insulting them by calling them idiots once more. Before the opening of Maggie's Magical World in the year, what no one wanted to happen, Serdy and Jerry would kill a child, according to the newspaper article. The parents say they left his son alone for a while to talk to the owner of the place, who was Daniel Gennaro. That was when Serdy and Jerry took advantage of the kidnapping the child and killing him. The family has been searching for him for more than 12 hours, and nothing happened. But now we know what really happened. Serdy and Jerry caught Craggy's attention, and with the child in their arms, they took him to parts and service, thus locking up Craggy and killing the boy, passing his soul to Craggy in revenge for Daniel. A few days later, what happened is that they also took a girl, but this time they caught Gubby's attention, luring him to the parts and service room. Serdy kills the girl and passes her soul to Gubby. An investigation is opened in the restaurant of Gubby's Magical World, in which a first officer had been sent there as the first investigator, but the police chief says he knows that he did not survive his last night, so he calls another officer, Moore, to take charge of the case. That is when he discovers the truth, and 4 nights collecting information from newspapers and facing the possessed animatronics of the premises. But when he decides to go for his last night, the chances of dying are high, since that Sardine Jerry went after him. But fortunately, he had luck holding his hand, so he managed to make it out alive on his last night. But when he goes to report everything he knows and found, his boss thinks that he's crazy, but that all because of the souls of the children and murders and so on. He's fired from the police agency, and later he decides to publish the newspaper article without their help, thus creating a newspaper article of little interest to the readers. But when he decides to publish by himself Dan Schmidt's newspaper article with everything he knew and saw, all the readers are interested in the case, and another anonymous police company decides to take up the case with his help. That's pretty much all that I can give you for now, but in the Reboot story, it's much more direct and it makes more sense this time around, and I actually love it. So the villain of the story, John McAdams, is experimenting with immortality, killing and experimenting on children by the ages of 3 to 5 years old. Meanwhile, for William Afton's case in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, he kills children vaguely at the ages of 5 to 9 years old, at least in my opinion. Now, in the original Five Nights at Maggie's, there's a girl named Stacy who also works as a night guard in Five Nights at Maggie's 2, the location being a museum. Meanwhile, in the Reboot, Stacy is one of Henry's siblings, John McAdams' children. And Stacy is killed in a car accident when a balloon slips out of her hand. She tries to catch it only to get run over by a car and dying immediately, and is basically blamed, and Henry's basically blamed for everything thanks to his father. Now, I don't know what to say about it, but I do wanna say that Henry / Stephen / Aaron is a straight up savage. He's a straight up savage. Like, he kills his dad, he kills Robert, and then he tricked his father into immortality, except that he wouldn't move, he wouldn't speak, he would be weak, but but no one would remember him. He would suffer for all eternity in an animatronic suit. So, interesting. Anyway, that's all for this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.